So I've had the MacBook Pro 14-inch for, let's say, 3 months now. And prior to even owning this device, I was using the MacBook Pro 2017 base model, and I'm pretty sure it was a 15-inch. Before the 15-inch, I had the 13-inch from 2015, and that was also MacBook Pro. And yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of perspective as far as like what I came from and where I'm at now. But yeah, I kind of want to take you through my day today as I talk about my experience with a MacBook Pro 14-inch so far. So let's go ahead and pack it up and let's take it to lunch, because I probably work a little bit too much than I need to sometimes, but I really love what I do, so it does not feel like work or anything like that. A concern that I had prior to purchasing the MacBook Pro 14-inch is, how does it compare in size to my 15-inch? Is it that much portable? And my answer is most definitely. It's lighter, you get a bigger screen, well, not a bigger screen, but you get a large screen in a smaller form factor, especially for someone who's coming from the 13-inch. It's practically the same size as that device. Another concern that I had was, I felt like the 13-inch was too small, the 16-inch was just way too big. So is the 14-inch the perfect form factor for somebody who's looking for a portable MacBook Pro? And my answer is yes. Okay, so I think the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and grab some lunch, because it's actually exactly 12:30, so let's go do that.
Silver spoons. Mine came home in afternoons. Came up with an older brother, so you know we act the fool. Never missed them days of school. I was acting crazy too. They even tried to say I wasn't capable of learning too. Just cause I ain't take no naps. I was dreaming wide awake. I was searching for a purpose. And the church was.
So we finally made it to the spot. It's called Fat Man's Cafe. If you're ever in the downtown Augusta, Georgia area, definitely check it out. They have the best soul food. I'm gonna go ahead and sign an order and I'll be back. Okay, so I think the best thing is just sit inside, because there's a bunch of landscapers outside and it's super loud. And that's gonna be bad for my audio. That's the thing with shooting videos like this, where it's more lifestyle. You just never know what to expect, so you have to be creative. But let's talk ports as we're waiting on the food. As you guys know, with the new 14-inch, we have new ports being HDMI, USB-C, SD card slot, about time, 2 USB-Cs, MagSafe is back. We also have a headphone jack. Glad to see that here as well. I don't think we're going to see it in the next generation of devices though, knowing Apple. But anyway, are the new ports useful? 100%. Not having to carry around nearly as many as adapters is the best thing ever. And the fact that they removed the SD card slot to begin with made no sense, being that this is a laptop specifically created for creatives. I know, created for creatives. Anyway, I'm happy that they did bring these ports back, because they're so useful. HDMI, for someone who's always using an external monitor, that saves me another adapter. I don't have to go find my adapter, plug it in, and then plug it into the MacBook. It's just so aggravating. So I think Apple did a really, really good job at bringing back these ports. And I think for the first time we can say Apple kind of humbled themselves. So I am currently typing up a script for the 2022 Highlander review that's going to be dropping on the channel very soon. So stay tuned for that. But with that said, let's talk about the keyboard and the trackpad. So I came from the 2017 MacBook Pro 15-inch, and it had those old butterfly keys, which were completely terrible. Like if you had a piece of like dust particle or something stuck in between, like it's gonna mess up with like just the feedback on the keyboard, and that was so annoying. I know a ton of people had to send units back to Apple because they just had stuff stuck in it or it just wasn't working properly. Well, that's not the case with this keyboard. Very tactile, typing on this is very easy. I appreciate the key travel. I haven't had any issues with it, and I really do like the fact that they removed that useless touch bar. Useless in my opinion, because I rarely used it. As you guys know, I like to use my monitor or my MacBook per se, connected to an external monitor most times. One thing that I do highly recommend is getting a keyboard cover, because when I was a week into using this laptop, I noticed like there was dust particles inside the keys themselves. I could see it through the backlight. So I highly recommend getting some kind of keyboard cover. Now, as far as a trackpad, the older MacBooks had much larger trackpads, and I was a little bit concerned about that, but now that I've had this laptop for 3 months, not that big of a deal. I don't mind it at all. But that's it, we've had lunch, typed a good bit of the script up. I'm about to head out to Target so I can go pick up some of my favorite best bass heavy headphones, because I'm gonna be doing a video on that very soon on the channel. So yeah, once again, stay tuned for that as well. Okay, so I finally found the headphones aisle, and part of finding the best bass heavy headphones is actually testing out some of the displays here, like the Beats, the Sonys. Sadly, I don't see any of the Skullcandy headphones on display, which sucks, but let's go ahead and play around with some of these and see if they're gonna make it to the video. It turns out they don't even have the Skullcandy crushers in stock, so we're gonna have to try Walmart or Best Buy. Likely Best Buy, but we'll see what we can do. Luckily, we at least found one pair of headphones. So I ended up going to Walmart, and that was a huge L. For some reason, they don't have it. After that, I went to Best Buy. They didn't have the Evo ones that I wanted, but I got to try out the Crusher Active Noise Canceling, which sounded way better. So I think that's the one I'm gonna be picking up, but I'm gonna go ahead and order it as soon as I get back to the office, because I'm sure Amazon is gonna have it. But we're gonna take a quick coffee break here. Should we go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks? I think I'm gonna hit up Starbucks. It's been a minute. I typically go to Dunkin' Donuts just because Starbucks is too expensive, and I feel like coffee's coffee in my opinion. So I love working at coffee shops, specifically editing at coffee shops. I've noticed these past few years, I feel more inspired creatively when I'm editing in a different environment. So every now and then, I'll leave the office, go to a coffee shop, and get some editing done. If you're a content creator or some kind of creative or creator, let me know if you can relate from this, because it's weird, but there's something about being in a different environment that just inspires me. So let me go ahead and knock out this project for a 50th birthday shoot that I did recently. Let's go do it.
Baby, look what hole I am in.
So I just finished cutting down all this footage, and I don't think I want to continue editing this video. A little bit on the tired side of things. For some reason, I just get really drained when I do a lot of editing. I'm sure a lot of people do, but it's currently 5:24 and I'm still working. Hashtag, we don't believe in 9 to 5 here, because I'm still gonna be working when I get in the office. But anyway, let's talk about performance, because a ton of people who are purchasing this laptop are either creatives or are looking to do some kind of crazy intensive task on this machine. I personally have been using it for video editing. If you haven't seen my in-depth comparison with Final Cut and Premiere when it comes to editing on this particular base model machine, check that out. A card should pop up and links will be down in the description. But something that I have to say is, on that video I talked about how fluid and smooth it was. But I didn't talk about that you do get slight jitters when you put a lot of graphics or heavy intensive or graphic intensive files on your timeline. It starts to become slightly laggy. It's definitely not a deal breaker, but it's there. So if you've seen a video on YouTube and they're like, there's not a single lag when it comes to editing on these new machines, it's capped. Because I personally experienced some very, very slight lag. And when I say slight, I mean like very slight. Like it's gonna cut frames for a few seconds and go right back into it. But it's definitely there and it's present. Now, as far as multitasking, it's actually been pretty amazing. I can have a bunch of creative applications like Final Cut, Premiere running in the background, and Adobe Lightroom, as well as web browsing and watching a bunch of videos, and still not have any weird lagging issues. And speaking of lagging, aside from the editing thing that I talked about, I don't think I've experienced a single lag on this laptop yet, or a crash. Not that I could think of right now at all. So I've been very impressed with the performance of this laptop. So if you're one who's considering picking up the base model and you're hesitant on picking it up just because it's a cheap base model, it's not cheap. Trust me, it's super fluid, extremely fluid. Speaking of fluid things, let's talk about that ProMotion display. And it's absolutely beautiful, and it still is till this day. I mean, 3 months later, of course. And I'm gonna be kind of honest with you guys. I no longer really notice like the ProMotion because all my phones now are like 120 hertz, rocking the iPhone 13 Pro Max. My Google Pixel, I can't remember the exact hertz, but it definitely has a high refresh rate. But whenever I do go back to a computer with a low refresh rate, that's when I'm like, oh, this was a little bit slow. But a lot of times it's not slow. It's because I'm really used to this 120 hertz panel. But I will say it's been amazing. In fact, I had to throw on this matte finish screen protector on it because the first unit that I got of this laptop, it shipped with some kind of scratch on it. But luckily, Apple was clutch enough and they replaced it with a whole new MacBook, which I really do appreciate. So yeah, I think I've covered a ton of things on this video. We've talked about the battery. We didn't talk about the battery, guys. So the battery life on this has been incredible. Definitely the best battery life I've had on any laptop, coming from the MacBook Pro 15-inch and the 2015 13-inch. Guys, the battery life is incredible. I'm able to get an average of, let's say, 7 to 8 hours of on-screen time, which is amazing for someone who does a lot of very, very power-intensive tasks on their laptop. So I can't imagine if you're barely using this laptop for editing or anything crazy, graphic or power-intensive. If you're using this for browsing, music listening, and really nothing that's intensive, it's going to last you, I'd say, multiple days. Yeah, because Apple did an amazing job this year. And I've been editing all day and I still don't hear the fans, but let's talk about that. When I first picked up this laptop, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. People were saying that the fans never cut on, and that's false. They do cut on, but you just never hear them. There's been instances where I noticed the MacBook was getting a little bit warm. Well, okay, anyway, there's been instances where I noticed the MacBook was getting a little bit warm when I was watching movies on Netflix, and I couldn't hear the fans at all. Like, I literally did this and I couldn't hear anything. But I had to pick up the MacBook, right? And put it under my ear for me to actually hear the fans. And currently, I don't hear a single thing, and I've been editing for about an hour now, which is pretty impressive. I don't know what Apple did, but I have to say the new M1 chips are very, very, very efficient. But I think I'm done with editing and talking about performance.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the office and wrap up this video.
Yeah. I came out the womb with a bird eyes view. I done seen it all, there ain't nothing new. Niggas get involved and they have no clue. Thinking that
So
the game really
that's
coming
pretty
to
much
you.
it for this video. It is currently 5:54, but I'm still gonna go upstairs and edit some more. Probably not edit, probably gonna do some other business related work, but one thing that I do want to answer is this laptop worth $2,000? To give you context, I actually traded in my MacBook Pro 15-inch 2017 base model for $750. So that balance went towards that $2,000 MacBook. Because if I sold it on eBay or Swappa, I probably would get like $800 to $900. But by the time I paid all those stupid fees, I'd be getting probably the same amount. And it was just a lot more convenient to trade it in. So if you are trading in your own machine, 100% worth it. If you're coming from, let's say, one of the other M1 machines, the 13-inch or maybe the Air, I don't know if it's gonna be like that much worth it, especially if you're coming from the M1 13-inch Pro. But maybe if you're coming from the MacBook Air M1, it's gonna be worth it. Now, if you're coming from a much older machine, if it makes sense to trade in, but if it makes sense to sell, please sell it. But if you're just wanting to pick up a MacBook for the very first time for $2,000, in my opinion, it's 100% worth it, only if you can justify the cost. If you're gonna be using it for, let's say, business-related work, let's say you're a video editor and you're actually getting paid to use that laptop, it has to make sense. But if you just wanna pick up the laptop because it's cool and stuff like that, it's really not worth it. You can just go for like a MacBook Air or something like that. And something that I forgot to mention when I was talking about the panel is that notch. I personally have already gotten used to the notch. The only thing that aggravates me is the fact that you have that menu bar on top that kind of covers up the notch whenever you're using different applications. I wish I had the option to actually make all my applications in full screen, even if the notch is kind of blocking part of the software. Like, I don't care about that. I sometimes kind of want to experience the full screen on some apps, not all of them, because it just doesn't make sense for some apps. But I would love to have that option at least, because sometimes I feel like I'm missing out on a little bit of screen real estate, in my opinion. But other than that, that's been really it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this style of day in the life, vlogging, walking around, showing you how my day-to-day, I can't even speak, showing you how my day-to-day looks like, because I had a ton of fun producing this video and considering making a lot more like this if you guys enjoy it. But thank you so much for watching. This has been Victor Kamanga with another Everything Technology video. I look forward to seeing all of you in the next one. Bye.
It's like the more I get older, more of the world that I notice. Niggas really ain't happy. Gina never loved Martin. Our system killing our youth. Our young black males are the targets. And our queens done been through things that probably left them cold-hearted. So what a love. Yeah. I guess you can't miss what you never had.